Ashe, and welcome to another special episode of our Mandatory Mental Liberation Message series, written and produced by our esteemed elder Baba Jelani Bomani Dembe, the brilliant founder of Majestic Mind Matters University. I'm your royal narrator, Queen Magical Melanin, for this new episode. The necessity of the Mandatory Mental Liberation series at Majestic Mind Matters University lies in our focus on serving our melanin-rich culture nation. By addressing the importance of knowledge of self to produce greater self-awareness and advocating for our mental liberation, especially for our precious melanin-rich culture children, our messages aim to combat the enduring effects of generational mental enslavement stemming from the historical trauma of the chattel enslavement of the ancestors. Our initiative seeks to empower us to break free from these harmful and unfavorable legacies and cultivate a deep-rooted sense of self-identity and unwavering resilience. Each moment you spend with us is a gift, a chance to grow, to learn, to be inspired. So stay with us till the end, where the real magic happens. Now, let's get started with this very special melanin-rich culture message titled, The Vital Importance of Name Reclamation and Cultural Awakening for Descendants of Chattel Enslavement. As descendants of chattel enslavement, we carry the weight of a painful history that cannot be overlooked. Our names, often stripped away and replaced with those that bear the marks of our oppressors, hold the keys to our identity and heritage. It is essential for us to change our names, not merely as an act of defiance, but as a reclamation of our powerful melanin-rich cultural heritage. By doing so, we take our first steps towards mandatory mental liberation for our precious children, ensuring they grow up with a sense of self rooted in pride and authenticity. Both history and the present illuminate the adverse effects of systematic oppression on our communities. The psychological scars left by centuries of subjugation manifest in various forms, affecting our mental health, societal interactions, and self-perception. Films produced by creators like Jordan Peele and Little Marvin poignantly explore these themes, addressing the contemporary psychological effects of social injustice, racism, and oppression. For instance, in Get Out, Peele dives into the complexities of racial dynamics, exposing the insidiousness of microaggressions and covert racism that have seeped into our everyday lives. Such narratives are not mere entertainment. They are reflections of our lived experiences and warnings of the psychological warfare that seeks to negate our existence. We must acknowledge the importance of marrying within our own race, prioritizing the respect and honoring of our melanin-rich culture women. These women have often faced the brunt of systemic oppression, enduring trials that have left scars on our community. They are the backbone of our civilization, having borne the weight of our struggles while fiercely protecting our children and cultural integrity. Likewise, we must hold our men in high esteem for their unwavering commitment to stand with us in this fight. Together, we form an unbreakable unit dedicated to the preservation and reclamation of our identity. Our journey involves rediscovering our roots in Alkebulan, the land, the cradle of civilization. By shunning the religions imposed by our oppressors and embracing our original spiritual practices, we return to a state of authenticity that allows us to connect with our ancestors. Acknowledging the plights of our forebears, memorializing the countless souls who suffered and died, keeps their stories alive. We recognize the ongoing impact of mass incarceration, a modern manifestation of chattel enslavement, entrapping our brothers, sisters, and even our children under the guise of laws that disproportionately target our communities. Moreover, we navigate the effects of Stockholm Syndrome, where our attachment to oppressive systems distracts us from our mission of liberation. The concept of drapetomania historically explained the fabricated mental illness assigned to enslaved individuals who dared to resist their bondage, an insidious manifestation of control that has evolved, but not dissipated. Terms like Black people, people of color, and even African American often serve to dilute our identity and fracture our unity, reinforcing the division sought by those in power. Racism remains a covert force in contemporary society. We experience institutionalized racism through legacy admissions and affirmative action, which are mischaracterized as reverse discrimination, while they fail to dismantle the systemic barriers that perpetuate inequality. Our melanin-rich people are increasingly rejecting empty symbolizes in exchange for our votes. We demand tangible outcomes that lead to systemic change. When we raise our fists in the air, it is imperative that we seek to dismantle the institution of oppression, rather than merely protecting it through symbolic gestures. The illusion of inclusion deceives us, leading us to believe we have a stake in the system while we remain pawns in a game structured against us. Meritorious manumission continues today, epitomized in figures like William O'Neill, who ultimately chose betrayal over liberation. His tragic end serves as a reflection of the psychological toll that oppression inflicts upon our community, urging us to recognize the need for holistic healthcare tailored to our unique experiences. In our efforts toward liberation, we must reclaim the meaning of woke, rooted deeply in our African American vernacular English, a call to awareness against societal injustices. As we awaken to our cultural heritage, we recognize that our true strength lies in unity, resilience, and a profound understanding of our past. Being woke is about remaining vigilant against oppression, actively working towards the mental liberation of our children, and perpetuating the legacy of our ancestors. Our journey towards reclaiming our names and identity is just the beginning of a much larger movement towards collective and individual healing. Together, we rise, reclaiming our place in history and ensuring the future liberation of our beloved melanin-rich culture. Engaging with organizations that celebrate oppressive fictional narratives invariably affects our familial bonds within our melanin-rich communities. These narratives, propagated through various forms of media, can subtly reinforce stereotypes and diminish the essence of our collective identity. When we immerse ourselves in stories that misrepresent or exploit our culture, we lose sight of the rich heritage that forms the foundation of our ancestors' struggles and triumphs. Therefore, it is crucial for us to prioritize and strengthen our connections with our cultural roots, permitting our familial bonds to flourish and resist the pervasive tide of systemic oppression. Reclaiming our names is a vital first step in this cultural awakening. Many of us have ancestors who were stripped not just of their freedom, but also of their identity, their names erased and replaced with dehumanizing labels. This act of reclamation is not merely an act of recognition, but an assertion of our existence and our right to self-identify. It empowers us to confront the oppressive narratives that continue to impact our descendants. Our children must understand who they are and where they come from, and this can only be achieved if we instill in them a sense of pride about their melanin-rich heritage. By engaging with our history, we lay the groundwork for mental liberation that is mandatory for our potential to thrive. In contemporary society, we see the psychological ramifications of social injustice, racism, and oppression manifested through film. Creators like Jordan Peele and Little Marvin are at the forefront of articulating these experiences. Their works provoke thought and stimulate discussion regarding our collective trauma and the ongoing challenges we face. For example, Peele's films often explore the psychological intricacies of race and invites us to confront the embedded fears and stereotypes that have been cultivated over generations. Such narratives compel us to examine our realities, recognizing that the insidious effects of systemic oppression reach deep into the psyche of our communities. We must also acknowledge the importance of solidarity among ourselves, particularly between men and women in our melanin-rich culture. It is paramount that we appreciate the struggles of our women, who have often borne the weight of oppression alone, and honor the efforts of our men who boldly stand up for the marginalized. Together, we must protect our children and vulnerable communities, embracing the knowledge of ourself and our heritage. As we reflect upon our history, we must also reject the superficiality of inclusion that has been offered by outsiders who do not truly have our interests at heart. We can no longer accept empty gestures for our valuable votes. Instead, we must demand tangible changes that positively impact our communities. It's clear that the discussions regarding affirmative action and legacy admissions often ignore the systemic barriers we face, labeling our needs for equity as reverse racism. While these discussions happen in elite spaces, we must remind ourselves that this does not affect the systemic oppression that continues to pervade our lives. The legacy of colonialism and chattel enslavement is evident in the persistent erosion of our identity. Terms such as African American or people of color, often propagated by colonizers, can dilute our true heritage. The language we use and the narratives we embrace shape our understanding of our place in the world. We must counter this by embracing our true identity, originating from Alkebulan, the birthplace of civilization. Moreover, we should remain conscious of how systemic oppression has historically exploited and continues to exploit our communities. The devastating concept of drapetomania, the pseudoscientific reasoning used to justify the enslavement of those seeking freedom, reflects the mental transformation inflicted upon us and our ancestors. The trauma of being stolen still reverberates today, creating a psychological warfare that continues to impact our mental health and social structure. Finally, as we navigate this complex terrain, we must prioritize holistic healthcare within our communities. Comprehensive care is essential for our mental, emotional, and physical well-being, offering an avenue to heal from past traumas and reclaim our identities fully. The systematic denial of our humanity throughout history must fuel our resolve to reclaim wellness, knowledge of self, and unbreakable resilience. In summary, we must stay woke. We must be aware and conscious of the narratives that shape our realities. Through reclaiming our identities, honoring our heritage, unifying as a community, and demanding tangible change, we can fortify our familial bonds. Together, we stand stronger in our pursuit of healing and liberation. Each step we take towards cultural reclamation is a step away from the shadows of oppression and towards a future rich in identity and belonging. The conclusion topic in this special Majestic Mind Matters University Mandatory Mental Liberation Message series is titled, Reclaiming Our Indigenous Cultural Heritage for Liberation. In our collective journey towards mental and emotional liberation, it is imperative that we actively reclaim and promote our indigenous cultural heritage. This reclamation is not just a matter of nostalgia. It is a vital need that serves as the foundation for empowering our children, particularly as they navigate the myriad challenges posed by systemic oppression and historical traumas. The consequences of chattel enslavement are still evident today, manifesting in complex psychological effects that threaten our identity as a melanin-rich civilization. Let us begin by emphasizing the significance of name reclamation and cultural awakening. The names we carry, both personal and collective, are deeply intertwined with our identities. When we reclaim our names, we reclaim our stories, our histories, and our connections to our ancestral lineage. Names hold power, and by reclaiming them, we break free from the oppressive narratives constructed by colonizers who sought to erase our heritage. This act is not merely symbolic. It is a crucial step in the broader movement for our empowerment. Our children must grow up understanding the richness of their heritage and the strength that comes from embracing their true identity. In this context, we must stress the importance of marrying within our own race. Such unions honor our melanin-rich culture, allowing us to build foundations of understanding, resilience, and respect. We hold in high esteem our women, the very essence of our being, who have faced systemic oppression and endured countless struggles often alone. These strong women have persevered through the trials of history, and it is our duty to honor and uplift them. At the same time, we must recognize the role of our melanin-rich culture men who have consistently stood in solidarity, defending and protecting our families and communities. Both the films of Jordan Peele, such as Get Out and Little Marvin's Them, serve as poignant reflections of the psychological effects of social injustice, racism, and oppression. These narratives not only entertain but challenge us to confront the covert realities that many melanin-rich individuals experience daily. They are mirror reflections of historical truths, inviting us to explore our trauma and illuminate the path towards healing. This is crucial. The visual storytelling embodies our lived experiences and reveals the insidious nature of systemic inequality. As we learn from the past, we must also become aware of how systemic oppression has evolved into modern forms of control, such as mass incarceration, which serves as a contemporary substitute for chattel enslavement. Laws have been crafted that disproportionately impact our marginalized communities. The legacy of drapetomania, a term used to label enslaved people who sought to escape, lingers in societal perceptions of our desire for freedom and self-determination. Today, many of us face the debilitating effects of Stockholm Syndrome, a psychological condition where the oppressed develop bonds with their oppressors, complicating our quest for true liberation. The language we use to describe ourselves is also important. Terms like Black, African American, or people of color often serve as identifiers imposed by outsiders, fragmenting our shared identity and purpose. We must reject these colonizer-invented labels and strive for a unified understanding of our melanin-rich heritage. We are not mere descriptors. We are a vibrant, multifaceted people with rich histories rooted in Alkebulan, the cradle of civilization. Moreover, we must confront contemporary hurdles, such as legacy admissions and affirmative action, often framed as racism against non-marginalized groups. This perspective obscures the systemic injustices that have disenfranchised our communities for generations. Institutional policies typically crafted without our input will never serve to uplift our people. Rather, they are tools wielded to maintain the status quo. We are collectively tired of empty symbolisms that seek to buy our votes in exchange for empty promises. Instead, our movement must demand tangible change, real reforms that are rooted in justice and equity. The urgency of our situation requires that we awaken from the illusion of inclusion. The concept of meritorious manumission, wherein individuals are awarded for turning against their community, continues to haunt us. As exemplified by William O'Neill's betrayal of the Black Panther Party, we must be mindful of division tactics that seek to undermine our collective power. Lastly, holistic healthcare is essential for our people, acknowledging our historical trauma and the physical manifestations of this pain. Rebuilding our sense of identity and belonging requires both mental and emotional healing. We must reject the narrative shaped by oppressive media influences and reclaim the authentic meaning of being woke. This consciousness is rooted in a profound understanding of our history and an unwavering commitment to our collective upliftment. Our reclamation of cultural heritage is not optional, it is necessary. For the sake of our children and the future of our community, we must unite in our efforts to reclaim our identity, support one another, and rise from the depths of systemic oppression. Together, we can pave the way to healing, empowerment, and liberation. Stay woke. The portrayal of systemic racism and social injustice in contemporary media, especially through the lens of filmmakers like Jordan Peele and Little Marvin, serves not only to reflect our experiences, but also to deepen our collective understanding of the psychological effects of oppression on melanin-rich communities. Their works illuminate the scars left by systemic injustices, allowing us to confront the trauma embedded in our history while also bringing to light the vital importance of cultural reclamation and empowerment for descendants of chattel enslavement. In this essay, we will explore how media not only mirrors our reality, but can also act as a catalyst for our liberation and understanding of self. Firstly, it is crucial to acknowledge the adverse psychological effects of systemic racism and social injustice on melanin-rich communities. For centuries, we have suffered the consequences of a system designed to marginalize, oppress, and dehumanize us. Contemporary films like Peele's Get Out and Little Marvin's Them encapsulate the insidious nature of this oppression, showcasing how the past continually permeates our present. The racial trauma depicted in these narratives reflects the profound sense of alienation and fear that has been passed down through generations. We see how the characters navigate hostile environments, grappling with the psychological weight of their ancestry while seeking to reclaim their sense of identity. Such portrayals remind us that the psychological effects of oppression are not merely historical footnotes, they are living realities that shape our collective consciousness and self-worth. The reclamation of our names and cultural heritage serves as a powerful antidote to the erasure we have faced throughout history. Our empowerment lies in recognizing our identity, invoking the strength that comes from our shared ancestral lineage. The journey toward understanding and reclaiming our melanin-rich cultural heritage is indeed mandatory for the mental liberation of our children. We must teach them the stories of resilience and strength of our ancestors who endured unimaginable struggles. This reclamation is a profound act of defiance against the oppressive systems that have sought to define us by derogatory terms and narratives. Moreover, our commitment to honoring our women and men is paramount. As melanin-rich culture women, we must uplift those who bore us and acknowledge the sacrifices they made, often alone, in a system that marginalizes them. Similarly, we must celebrate our melanin-rich culture men who steadfastly protect our communities. In our unity, we find strength. Together, we create a sanctuary where our children can feel empowered and valued. The psychological burden of oppression also manifests in the present-day realities of mass incarceration, which has diversified and replaced the chains of chattel enslavement. The practices of drapetomania and the insidious existence of Stockholm Syndrome illustrate the mental transformations forced upon us. The language of oppression has evolved, and terms like people of color and African American often serve to further divide us. We must recognize these constructs for what they are: tools of systemic discrimination employed by those who seek to maintain control and marginalization. When we consider legacy admissions and affirmative action, we see that their implications are often painted with accusations of reverse racism, while systems preventing us from accessing equitable opportunities remain intact. Our melanin-rich culture community is now, more than ever, demanding tangible results, not mere empty symbols presented in exchange for our unwavering loyalty and votes. We understand the power of collective bargaining and recognize that waving a fist in the air is not enough. Action must accompany our demands for justice and equity. As we move forward, it is essential to dismiss the illusion of inclusion. We must rewrite the narratives that govern our lives, tearing down the structure of systemic oppression. The case of William O'Neill and the betrayal of Fred Hampton serves as a stark reminder of how deeply internalized oppression can manifest within our own ranks. The Kerner Commission's findings delineate the ongoing racial divide and social injustices within the United States, showing us that holistic healthcare is a necessity rather than a luxury for our communities. We are faced with a dual challenge: to reclaim our narrative and heal from the psychological scars left by centuries of oppression. By anchoring ourselves in our melanin-rich cultural heritage and focusing on our collective awakening, we can forge a future where our children are liberated and empowered to thrive. Let us understand the weight of our history, stand firmly in our identities, and move forward united in purpose, ensuring that the lessons of our ancestors inform our journey toward a just and equitable society. Together, we can stay woke and embrace the transformative journey back to our rightful selves. I'm your royal narrator, Queen Magical Melanin. We trust that this very special message has expanded your understanding through the insights shared by our highly esteemed producer, Elder Baba Jelani Bomani Dembe, founder of Majestic Mind Matters University, in our Mandatory Mental Liberation Series special message. Remember this: it is essential to honor the ancestors. We have a unique connection to the ancestors. They endured many unwarranted struggles, preserved our melanin-rich culture, and passed down invaluable wisdom through many generations. By honoring the ancestors, we pay honorable tribute to our roots and draw great strength and much-needed inspiration from the unwavering resilience and royal legacy that has paved the way for our present and future generations. Ancestral reverence is a powerful way for us to continually uphold our own melanin-rich identity, heritage, and cultural legacy. Here is an ancient Alkebulan proverb to keep in mind: if you think you are too small to make a difference, you have not spent the night with a mosquito. Remember this as well whenever you are in the presence of anyone saying, "They don't see color," it actually means, "They don't see you." We acknowledge and honor the indigenous name of our glorious continent as Alkebulan. This name means Mother of Mankind in various Alkebulan languages such as Akuyu, Swahili, and Kemet, referring to ancient Egypt, and rejecting the terms Africa or African. As royal members of our melanin-rich culture nation, we must strive for knowledge of self, for greater personal awareness. Always treat yourself kindly and seek to live a totally awesome and gloriously fulfilling melanin-rich culture life. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. So, like, subscribe to stay updated, and share this very special melanin-rich culture link with everyone that you care about and that really cares about you and all of yours as well. And thank you for listening to this enchanting special message. Stay woke. Ashe.